quite like we used to do, but nonetheless. Kelly's going to be with us. We're going to talk to him about what they are up to.
They have their greatest hits tour going on this summer.
Right, and talk about a link. I'm willing to take a huge leap, but link Foreigner with our first talking point coming up right after we tease our great reporter, and that is we're going to be talking about Foreigner here legally, but we're also going to be talking about foreigners here illegally. How about that? Illegal
quite
foreigners.
A connection.
Thank you very much.
Over the last couple of months, we've been talking about critical race theory, and a lot of parents, when they find out about it, they're going, wait a minute, they're starting to teach that in my kid's school? I don't like it. And that is why Loudoun County in Virginia has essentially become ground zero for that. And today we have dispatched Lawrence Jones. He's live at the Leesburg Diner in Leesburg, Virginia, joining us live. Lawrence, good morning to you.
Hi, Lawrence.
Good morning, guys. I'm in Loudoun County today, as you guys noted, at Leesburg Diner. Now, as you guys know, this has been the ground of CRT, and these parents that are fighting back, going to school board meetings, really putting pressure on the leadership to not only take it away, but describe what their intentions are. We're going to talk to them about that, talk to them a little bit about the president's trip. He just got back from overseas. How did he do compared to Putin? It's going to be a packed house. People already coming in. They decided to open this diner up early for us today, and we're excited to be here with them. We're going to send it back to you guys back in New York.
All right, Lawrence in Leesburg. Check him out.
I know.
If you're looking for breakfast this morning.
Yeah, go to that diner, and then you can be on Fox and Friends, and you can talk to Lawrence, meet Lawrence. He's a wonderful person.
That's
and
right.
I look forward to hearing all those opinions about what the parents are saying in that district.
All right.
Yep.
CRT.
Meanwhile, at 3 minutes after the hour, there's going to be a lot more people in this country if everything continues as it is. About 6,000 are coming across the border illegally, especially in Texas, and equally almost in Arizona. In Los Angeles, in California, they seem to be ignoring the problem, but it is still a huge problem. It has not eluded other states as they've rallied to give National Guards to Texas, to Arizona, because the federal government is not doing anything. Yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas went in front of a committee in order to try to rationalize and explain away why they're doing almost nothing to stop this border crisis, not showing up, especially the vice president, and not addressing it, hoping it'll go away. Here is Congressman Ralph Norman asking the DHS secretary, where's the vice president?
I'm reclaiming my time. You made the statement that my question was unfair. I'm making the statement that your comments are just words and they're very unfair. I ask you a simple question, and I would like for you just to answer simply. Does it make sense for the leaders of the free world to go to talk to and see what's going on at the border?
I am the Secretary of Homeland Security, and it is my responsibility to manage the border at the direction of the president and the vice president, and I have visited the border on multiple occasions. The vice president served as the attorney general of a border state of California, and she is quite familiar with the situation on the border.
But she's laughing at it.
So by his logic, she used to be the attorney general for a state on the border. So even though she's in charge of the root causes of the migration disaster we're having, she doesn't have to go. Look, after Kamala Harris had a terrible week 2 weeks ago when she was interviewed by Lester Holt, and he said, you've never been to the border, and she said, well, I've never been to Europe either, and she laughed it off. That was a debacle. And now when Mayorkas showed up in front of that committee yesterday, he was ready to say, look, it's not their job, it's my job. He's falling on the sword because she won't go, because right now, if you can't take the heat, stay away from the border. And that's what the president and the vice president are doing.
It's been 87 days since she got this job, and she has still not gone down there. The president has not gone down there. These states now are saying, because of their inaction, we're having to step in. We're having to send our law enforcement, like Florida and Idaho. And they're saying we're trying to protect the rest of the country, because this is not just a problem for Texas. It's a problem for every single state, for our entire nation, because they're being sent to all of these different states.
So Harris Faulkner was able to book Henry Cuellar and Ken Paxton at the same time.
Henry Cuellar is a Democrat from Texas.
Yeah, and he's as outraged and alarmed as anyone.
All we can do is invite the vice president. Hopefully she'll come down on that. But we're ready to secure the border and work with them. And we need to deport people. The people that don't belong here should be deported.
And I'm hopeful that the administration will start working with us instead of ignoring a problem that will affect not just Texas, but in the end, the entire nation. And it won't be good.
And it won't be good. Just to show you how bad the situation is right now, you know, we've been showing you these stash houses down in Texas. And then news that apparently some Texas Border Patrol agents outside of a McDonald's in Van Horn, Texas, they saw this big U-Haul and they asked, okay, you got to unlock that thing. Let's see what's in there. 33 guys in there, no shirts on because it was so hot. Think about it. There's no ventilation in the back of a U-Haul. Those people would have wound up dead, given the fact that it is so ridiculously hot right now throughout the desert Southwest, right through Texas as well. That goes to show you this is a huge problem. People are desperate to come here. And then when you dial in the drugs, the fentanyl, Ainsley, you said yesterday that just recently enough fentanyl was impounded to kill 21 million
people in America.
Unbelievable.
And to that point, with the U-Haul truck, they found 2 of those trucks. And the chief patrol agent for Big Ben, he made a good point. He said, if our heroic agents hadn't freed the trapped undocumented migrants, we could have had 33 miserable deaths. Smugglers don't care what type of misery they put people through as they take their money.
And the rules are changing to make things worse. It looks as though the Biden administration has decided to re-implement an Obama-era program that allows Central American minors to under 21 from the Northern Triangle countries, one of which was visited by the vice president, to reunite with their families. And also, if you come to our border and you say, I'm under stress or I could be I could seek asylum, you get to stay. And Byron Dorgan, yesterday, the Congressman Byron Dorgan, Donalds, came out yesterday and says, can you just tell me how much this is costing us? Already they diverted $2 billion to the border. We could probably use that money in various social programs, I imagine, but at least $2 billion, maybe more, on a totally preventable problem that they are ignoring. It's hard to get past this. I believe this is going to blow up in the Biden administration's face. They're underwater with the country when it comes to illegal immigration, and they think they're going to eventually get the.
That is, so many people are upset about the teaching of critical race theory, where you are either an oppressor or a victim. A fellow by the name of Ty Smith is a radio show host in Central Illinois. He also showed up at the school board meeting the other night where his children go to school, and he unloaded, and it was so amazing, the passion, because we're talking about our kids here. We wanted to play you Ty Smith and listen to his argument about being oppressed. It's a good one.
So when you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to personally tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory?
He said he had no mom or dad at home. He worked his way off the streets, you heard him say. His own story, he says, proves that this narrative is false. He said, we're deliberately telling a white kid that they have it better because they're white. We're purposely telling white kids that black people are all down and oppressed.
Right. The other thing to keep in mind, I think no one says that Jim Crow didn't happen. No one says you should not study slavery, the emancipation, and what happened afterwards. Nobody said in the 1960s you should not look back and be horrified that there were black and white bathrooms and that certain people can't go to a theater because of the color of the skin. But what you see is incremental improvement along the way. And with big difference between now and what they're teaching or what they're efforting to teach, and I think they're hopefully being re-examined and yanked, is they're vilifying generations that have come afterwards and saying, you're the problem. You made this big mistake. Apologize for the color of your skin and give people a leg up because another race has a leg down. So you vilify someone, then ask them to participate to solve a problem that many people think is not poisoning our culture or our country.
I think teach them the past, teach them about history and how wrong it was. Segregation was wrong. Teach them about Martin Luther King and his message, which was love and based on Christianity. And teach everyone is God's child. And based on the character, they should be judged, not on the color of their skin.
That's right. So after Ty Smith made that impassioned plea to that school board, we saw the video. He was booked on the show with Martha yesterday afternoon, The Story, and he says the whole premise of systemic racism is BS. Watch this.
When I'm hearing this stuff that people are crying about right now about the black people being oppressed because of that the white people or some white man or some white systemic racism thing, I call BS on it because I was so naive to that what they were saying that I actually was asking people legitimately like, hey, this systemic racism, where is it at? Like, where is the white man? Where is the system that's doing it? Because I like to go and talk to the people that's behind it. And when I do this, people usually respond like, oh man, it's everywhere. Well, since you are so sure that it's everywhere, then point it out and show it to me. Yeah. But nobody never can show it to me.
It will be interesting to see where this all goes in the next couple of months, because the more people hear about what it is, the more they get angry one way or the other.
He should be the story. He worked his way off the streets. No parents at home to help him out. And look at him, 2 medical degrees and a radio show host.
When he was in 3rd grade, he was apparently on public assistance. And
that's right.
In his school,
free lunches, yeah.
He had to get free lunch. But to get the free lunch, you had to be last in line. And he hated that. And he withdrew and stopped talking to his friends.
Said he blamed his friends, and then he realized when he got older, that's the wrong thing to do. It's not their fault. I'm just going to work my way out of this.
And just show you, as logical as that all seems, I just could see Barack Obama last week in an interview with Anderson Cooper kind of mocked the fact that people have a problem with critical race theory and said, can you believe Republicans have a problem with this? Who knew? Shrugged his shoulders and they both laughed. He looks at this conversation as an alternate universe. So that's our goal, to somehow have the conversation, because we obviously don't feel that way.
Well, the conversation is going on across America's kitchen tables right now, and a lot of people are getting angry, and they're going to talk to the school board. And it seems like every 3 days there's a new national voice, and today that voice belongs to Ty Smith.
Yep. And Lawrence Jones is going to be talking to the folks in Loudoun County, where you said was ground zero for critical race theory.
Pretty
and
much.
That conversation started there. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian. You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So
Love
do
your
you.
hair back.
Gents, you look fabulous. Gents. Good morning.
But his wife is the real golfer. They met on the driving range. She is a phenomenal golfer.
His wife is?
Yeah.
Really?
So that kid is going to end up pro. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even go to school. He's guaranteed to be a professional golfer.
You're already predicting that.
Right.
No, this reminds me of the Tiger Woods videos. Remember when he was little?
Yep.
When the governor shows up here at 8 o'clock, we're going to actually put the Tiger Woods video where he is of the same age right next to his son for a side-by-side comparison.
Okay. And then we'll put Brian's video next to it.
Oh, that hurts my feelings. How dare you?
Don't you have the video of you playing golf?
Right. I have very bad video. I had one good drive, and then we...
Do we have that now?
Hey, all right. Coming up. President Biden says Vladimir Putin is committed to keeping the peace in Afghanistan as the Taliban wastes no time expanding their reach. General Jack Keane breaks down Russia's response.
Maintain some peace and security, and I said that has a lot to do with you. He indicated that he was prepared to, quote, help on Afghanistan.
Yeah, what does Vladimir Putin mean by help on Afghanistan? Joe Biden describing his exchange with the president of Russia on the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan as the Taliban wastes no time expanding their reach. Here to react, Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired 4-star General Jack Keane, who spoke to the president of Ghani, the president of Afghanistan. General, do you really believe Vladimir Putin was wishing us the best with our exit?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, what's taken place here is Russia for years has been supporting the Taliban with money and with weapons and ammunition. They are absolutely rejoicing that the United States is finally out of South Asia. That vacuum is going to be filled by Russia, by Iran, and by China. all of those who had adversarial interest against the United States. What I think is happening here is we used a base in Uzbekistan from which to launch our attacks in Afghanistan after 9/11. The United States, if we could get permission from Russia to use a base again, an airfield, in one of their countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, that would give us the opportunity to provide support for the Afghans and hopefully provide some air support, which is really the issue. I mean, President Ghani of Afghanistan, who I spoke to a few weeks ago, I mean, his number one concern at this point, obviously he's disappointed by the decision to pull out, but his number one concern is lack of air support. And then we're pulling out all the contractors that support his Air Force. And he said, my fleet will be deadlined in a number of weeks. I need to have contract. He doesn't have that kind of capability in his country to take care of sophisticated aircraft like that. We have the capability and we know how to secure them. It's unfortunate that this has taken place. General, but I think the issue that President Biden wants from Putin is that air base. Whether he'll give it or not, I don't know. There is a possibility he would, and here's the reason. Putin knows full well that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are going to reemerge in Afghanistan, as all of us observers are predicting. That becomes the threat to him. After all, he went into Afghanistan in 1980s, not him, but the Soviet Union leaders did, because of the threat of radical Islam on their southern flank. They have always been very concerned about that. That is the one reason why he may support President Biden.
General, we've seen this movie before. It's called Iraq. They're ready to stand up on their own. We left, and Iraq was more ready than Afghanistan. And we know we had to go back in. Is it going to be that easy going back in like we did in Iraq?
No, it'd be very difficult. Yeah, the Iraq situation is a wonderful corollary. The administration at the time, when we pulled out, over everybody's objections, to include the military's objections and certainly the government of Iraq, when we pulled out, we said, look, we're not leaving you. We're just pulling our troops out. We'll be here for you. We'll support you. We'll take care of you. Didn't happen. And we got ISIS a few years later, conducting a significant invasion into Iraq. We're making a lot of promises now, Brian, and it rings hollow to me based on what we have done before. We've got to belly up here and support them with what they need to be able to sustain themselves, even though our troops are out of there.
So, General, I don't have the military contacts, obviously you have, but I do have some, and they have all expressed to me they're extremely worried about the people that have helped us for the last 20 years in Afghanistan. If the Taliban take over, they're all going to be annihilated. Are we going to allow that to happen? Is this going to be Saigon 2?
It has potential of that. Secretary of Defense has vowed to expedite this with the State Department to try to get as many of those people out of there. I think the near-term solution is to take them to a third-party country and hold them there while we vet them and get the thousands of them out of there, because that's the near-term threat. I mean, half of our forces are gone. Probably in another month or so, most all of them will be gone. And certainly, these folks are going to be very, very vulnerable. They've already killed scores of these people already. There's no doubt, even though the Taliban has made a proclamation, Brian, that they're not going to do anything with the interpreters that the Americans had. That's a bold-faced lie.
I just hope
the pattern of their behavior.
And, General, I hope the American people are prepared for the fact that Taliban are eventually going to just take that country over, and then they're going to start pointing fingers. It's still fixable. I just hope there's some sober minds at the Pentagon to get out the right way, or just keep enough troops where we have a presence right between China and Russia. Thanks so much, General. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great talking to Brian. Have a great weekend.
All right. Meanwhile, you too, sir. Meanwhile, up next, a heated clash on The View over President Biden's treatment of the press.
With all due respect, I don't care if he's apologizing. He just embarrassed himself.
I don't care that you don't care. Just hear what I'm saying.
I don't care that you don't care.
We're going to go. We're going to go.
Thinking in the back of your head, car's going to blow up. Car's going to blow up.
Yes, I only have a few seconds.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Thank you very much, Jillian. Meanwhile, the co-hosts, a couple of them, on the show The View over on ABC, getting into a really Heated exchange yesterday when it came to Joe Biden's treatment of the press in Switzerland, where he essentially said that Caitlin Collins of CNN was in the wrong business.
It's the press's job to speak truth to power. And just because Biden has gotten a pass so far, which he has and continues to do, it is in no one's best interest to treat him like it's state TV.
The thing that I never saw Trump do was apologize to anybody. And I will take it.
Well, with all due respect, I don't care if he's apologizing. He just embarrassed himself.
I don't care that you don't care. Just hear what I'm saying.
I don't care that you don't care.
We're going to go. We're going to go. Well, then good, Megyn. Then you can be how you always are. We'll be right back.
You can be how you always are.
Oh, man.
Ooh. Well, joining us now, Fox and Friends weekend co-host Pete Hegseth, Rachel Compostepi, and Will Cain. Hey, guys. Rachel, I'll start with you.
Morning.
Your reaction to that.
Well, look, I mean, the press has been fawning over Biden for a long time, and he got the tiniest of pushback from the NBC reporter, and he couldn't take it. And you know what? The press kind of deserves this kind of treatment. They, allowed him to stay the entire campaign in his basement, and now they want him to be as transparent and, available to them. In that interview, Meghan McCain also said that her contacts in the press tell her that the press is frustrated that Biden isn't allowing them access, which, again, what did they expect after that kind of, campaign? I mean, this is what Biden is doing because he's allowed to get away with it. He's not going to change. Why would he?
Well, here's the thing. Her question was a good question. And Biden essentially later had to walk it back, said, I was just being a wise guy. But, Pete, what is unique about their situation, and it's much like what we're doing right now, the three of you currently are at different locations. All of the hosts of The View are at different locations. When they eventually get back around their table over here on the west side of Manhattan, I don't know that that's going to be a cozy situation.
It may not go so well. That's sort of what it looks like when Will and I talk in the green room. It's I don't care. I'm going to be how I'm going to be on the air.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah, I know you are, but you're not the boss of me. But then when we get in person, we both sort of, we stand down a little bit on air. It's always more difficult remotely, right? It's easy to be tough guy remotely. It's much more different when you're in the room. But it's that's not good TV. That's a terrible exchange. I will say this, though, that ultimately, we look really weak. I mean, you've got Joe Biden apologizing to a reporter. You got Joe Biden apologizing if he takes questions he shouldn't because his aides are going to slap him on the wrist. And ultimately, he's getting one tough question. And the way he talked down to the reporter was because the reporter wasn't playing the game that he's supposed to, which is be nice to Democrats. It was all different under Trump because they were going after him. Ultimately, The View remains unwatchable. Just watch Fox and Friends.
Yeah, why not?
Hey, Will, the one thing about Meghan McCain is she's obviously her dad and President Trump sparred, but she could still compliment President Trump when he did something. Anytime Joe Biden goes off the reservation or gets stuck on a word, they make excuses for him. They never flip to the other side. Meghan McCain's got credibility because she will.
Well, that's what she said she was asking for as well. She said, I just want some intellectual consistency. Treat Biden the same way you treated Trump. That's not happening, obviously, because the press treated Trump in an unprecedented fashion. I mean, everything was attacked. Nothing could be right. Everything was wrong. And it's been the opposite for Biden. He's got, as Meghan McCain said in that clip, the ultimate pass. But back to The View for 1 second. I may be different than everyone else here, but I don't have a big problem with it. I mean, Steve, it may be a little tense when they get back to Manhattan, but that's okay. It's okay. I mean, be real, be authentic. If you're truly mad at each other like that, look, I've had those kind of fights on air. I mean, anyone that ever watched ESPN's First Take knows that was about every other day between me and Stephen A. Smith. But if you can kind of shake hands afterwards and realize we were just real with each other and be pros afterwards, I don't have a big problem with it. Let it fly.
Even if it gets personal? It got pretty personal at the end.
And I don't know that the two of them could ever shake hands. That's the way it looks
Steve,
as a viewer.
The thing about this that people take for granted is in the end, all of this is a personal relationship. I have a good personal relationship with every single one of you. And that has to be able to be the thing that recovers you after, yes, Ainsley, a very tense, rude, personal moment. In the end, if you're a real person on TV and you're a real person behind the scenes, and you can recover from something like that. If you hate each other, you hate each other. That's the end. That's what you just saw.
Hey, Will, for the record, I like Pete and Rachel. I don't really got a chance to know the real Will Cain, so I don't know if I can be really look at myself as personal friends.
Let's get personal so you can get to know Will. Will, tell him your deepest personal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Nancy. Go ahead. Show me how much you care, Will.
You know what? Instead, Rachel and Pete, how about the two of you split the coming up menu of who's going to be on your show this weekend? Rachel, you start.
We have Alveda King coming up this weekend, which I'm really excited to be interviewing her.
That's true. We also have Representative Joni Ernst and Will, who's the athlete we have this weekend.
Look at that. See what kind of chemistry that is? He gave me the third, not even have to. You know, you said only those two. The third would be Brett Favre, Pete. Brett Favre on the show.
And the reason I said that was because Pete keeps a clock, and he times everybody's segment, and you had slightly more time, Will, than the other.
That's why we get in fights in the green room.
Exactly.
It takes my teases, and I don't like it.
Will, would you tell us something personal?
Brian, so I had this dream last night, and there you were.
You know what? Okay, that's
you're wearing. And
all right, we'll all be watching
you this weekend
because Rachel is the brand new
guys.
permanent
I know,
co-host
we're
of
so
Fox and Friends
happy.
Weekend.
Right.
All right. Thanks,
She's
y'all.
worked really hard to get there. Congratulations. Okay, 6:40 here on the East Coast, and straight ahead, Lawrence Jones is eating breakfast with our friend
In Leesburg, Virginia. Right now, you're going to see this man behind the counter. There's Lawrence Jones talking to the folks with Breakfast with Friends on this Friday morning.
That's right, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm here talking with some parents right here. They're with a nonpartisan organization called Fight for Our Schools. Michelle, you're passionate about it, and you say the division amongst the classmates is what's really starting to concern you.
It's starting to concern me, and it's one of the reasons why we are all petitioning to recall our school board. It's really important that we focus on education rather than division, and that's why I'm one of the many angry moms that Ian Pryor talks about trying to recall the school board.
Amy, tell me a little bit about what you've seen there on the local level there. You've been passionate about it. What really concerns you?
It's a multitude of things. It's really, we feel like we're being isolated from what our kids are learning in the classroom. We don't have any input. We don't have any say. Things are being hidden from us. For instance, some of the inappropriate books that have made their way into our kids' curriculum happened to my daughter. And the school board just deflects and is dishonest about it and not transparent.
Aaron, tell me a little bit, what has been the response from the kids? Because this is what this is really about. You guys have made it very clear. You want your kids to learn history. You want them to learn the good, bad, and the ugly. But the way it's been presented is what concerns you.
Right. I mean, we all have kids that are in the school and in the system rather, and we talk to them about what they're seeing, and they have mixed stories of what's in their school and what's not in theirs yet, but we've heard rumblings. And they're worried to speak up, and they're worried about what's going to happen to them if they say, okay, this isn't what my family believes in, or what we've been taught. But we want them to have true history and true math and true quality literature. That's all we're asking for.
And that seems to be the common theme that we're hearing from the parents here today. They want kids to learn the good, bad, and ugly. They want them to learn math, science. But the way that they're presenting this is not the right way to do it. Guys, I'm going to be here all morning talking about the issues of today as well as the CRT. We wanted to hear straight from the county that's kind of leading the charge. Back to you guys in New York.
Plus, you're also going to be having a delicious breakfast. I used to go to that place when I lived down in that neck of the woods.
You think I'm going to pass up on some good biscuits and gravy, Steve?
All right. Good enough.
Not a chance.
Oh, I love biscuits and gravy. The sawmill gravy, is it the white gravy?
It is the white gravy, and it's seasoned to perfection, Ainsley.
That's right.
Only us Southern folks know about this.
Great. All right, Lawrence, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lawrence. The next cookbook. Next cookbook.
All right, so let's check in with Janice Dean. She is outside roughing the elements. Janice, how are you doing out there?
Another beautiful day in the neighborhood here in New York City, but I can't say the same across the Gulf Coast. We have a tropical system that is going to make landfall in the next 12 to 24 hours. This will probably get a name today, but regardless of whether it's named or not, the results are still the same. 4 to 8 inches along the Gulf Coast. Some areas could see isolated amounts of over a foot of rainfall. So we are into it, my friends. The tropics are heating up, especially across the Gulf Coast. There's your forecast today. The other big story, of course, we've been following this for weeks now, is the heat across the west. Another scorcher of a day, deadly heat potentially over parts of California in towards the southwest, not only today, but through the weekend. So that's going to be, a big issue. And then we also could see the potential for some stronger storms over the Midwest. So lots going on in the weather department. We will keep you up to date. Back inside, Steve, Ainsley, Brian, happy Friday.
That's right, a getaway Friday.
Yeah. More than 3.5 million Americans still claiming unemployment benefits despite a record number of job openings. The current labor shortage forcing business owners like our next guest to get pretty creative. Sergio's restaurant, which has multiple locations across South Florida, is using this food running robot. The robot's name is Astro, to pick up the slack of these employees who haven't returned yet. So let's bring in CEO of Sergio's Restaurants down in Miami, Carlos Gazatua. Good morning, Carlos.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. So this is actually helpful to you. In the past, we've talked about robots replacing jobs, and we were all worried about that. But in this time, when people can't find employees, this is really helpful, right?
Yeah, so, we were offering, obviously, increases of wages, healthcare plans, 401ks, but people just weren't applying. And like many in the industry, we didn't know what to do. Some restaurants down here, in particular in South Florida, were closing 1 or 2 days a week because just of the burnout. So we started looking internally at our employees, talking to them, and we realized that they just were walking way too much. The servers couldn't take all our tables. 30% of our restaurants are closed. And that's where robotics came in, right? We thought of the idea of, what if the servers can just be more with the guest? And we can take that hard part of doing the server's job and use robotics.
How does Astro know which table to go to?
So it's 3D mapped the restaurant, so it knows all the walls. And it's pretty interesting using kind of this technology is that we are able to know exactly where we want Astro to go for each table. So we use a walkie-talkie system where we are communicating with our server, letting them know, hey, table 55 is coming out. And this has actually increased servers' wages, right? Because before they were able to take 3 to 4 tables, now they can take 5 to 6 tables. Wow.
Does he ever spill the coffee?
We don't do drinks. We don't do drinks so far right now with the technology. Yeah. But what's interesting is we've saved about 25 miles.
That's a good question. Steve says, do you tip? Do we tip the robot?
The robot doesn't get tipped, so the server actually keeps that money, again, helping them retain a higher salary wage.
Okay. I wonder if you're going to get more employees now, though, because Florida has dropped the federal assistance as of June 26. No more of those $300 checks per week. So maybe, do you think you're going to have more people applying?
We're hoping so. I mean, every governor has to do what's best for his citizens, and they're seeing that, people are out, vaccines are available. The unemployment benefits was given, they didn't want to piecemeal it. They extended it till August, right? So governors have to take the initiative now that they're seeing people out. They're seeing that the inflation is going up. They're seeing the supply chain is a mess. They have to take the leadership role to protect the citizens, not only that are not working, but the citizens that are working.
That's right.
And that's hopefully what we're seeing now.
Ron DeSantis is doing that down in your state. Thank you so much, Carlos.